Now, why would you not want to make a report to the authorities against a potential offender or somebody who has committed a wrong against you? This video is addressed to those of us who have been falsely accused of an offense. And I hope at the end of this video, I have been able to put forward some points why you should act first before a report is made against you. Of special interest to you is this dynamic of who should make the report first is especially pertinent in what I call equivocal cases, which means cases which have equivocal facts. Facts which, on the surface of it, the authorities might not be clear who's the actual offender and who's the actual wrongdoer. Not an exhaustive list. I'd like to suggest two scenarios. Some commercial cases involving investments of private loans, and the second are certain domestic cases. Forgive me, this is just for the lack of a better term, and out of convenience I say domestic. So in the first category, commercial cases, this may be a shareholder dispute, it may be a business dispute, a contractual dispute. However, due to the developments of the case, or perhaps some pointers found, some evidence found, it escalates to what could be a standoff and threats being shared back and forth. There could be some other stakes at hand. Perhaps there is an upcoming audit or an upcoming takeover imminent. Whatever the case may be, this could translate into an accusation of cheating, fraud, or mismanagement, especially in the case of owners against the managers of a company or organization. Thus, it is essentially a commercial dispute or a corporate situation. However, it turns out to be classified as cheating under section 420 or 417 of the Penal Code, or any other mismanagement under the specific provisions of the law. And if it involves money, there could be allegations of misappropriation or breach of trust, especially when there is a question as to the authority or the alleged breach of purported authority limits for the management of money or company assets. So be careful of that. Secondly, what I mentioned about domestic cases. This could be he says versus she says, he says versus he says, and again, I apologize, and with no disrespect, without taking away the seriousness of such encounters, such conflicts. This could be situations where spouses have been going through a hard time, or they're splitting up, or have already been divorced, and this is a competition over property, but especially over visitation and custody rights. So certain allegations may be made by one against the other. And again, this is sometimes equivocal. You know, the same facts, it can be seen in more than one perspective. In the two examples I've shared, and again, this is not an exhaustive list, these are likely equivocal. From a neutral vantage, it is hard to say who is the actual offender and who is not. But in reality, you do not want to be at the receiving end, at the back foot, which means whoever goes to the authorities first has the advantage of initiative. That means that the complainant has the advantage of covering as much territory as possible and coloring the narrative, thereby giving a framework of the events to put forward to the investigators. The investigators, of course, have their internal structure whereby they need to, at the early stage, classify what kind of case this is, whether should they treat this as an actual case, where and what kind of resources, departmental resources to commit to this kind of case. And they'll bring it to their boss, often with very little early information. Therefore, the complainant would put their best foot forward and put they would be advised, they would put a good enough complaint to get the machine of the government churning. Now you, the hypothetical you, who had been holding out this whole time and not making a police report against his counterpart, you would be at a disadvantage, because the first time you'll be able to influence the authorities is when you're called up to give a statement, in which case they already have some of the evidence gathered. They've already taken some evidence from some witnesses already, and investigating officers have spent a number of hours or perhaps 1 or 2 days with an idea of what the case is, and perhaps they've already been received early guidance and instructions from their supervisor as to what kind of direction to take this kind of case and this kind of allegation. So you'd be at the back foot, and you might be approached at a time inconvenient to you, in circumstances inconvenient to you. I'm not here to advise or talk about what you should do in that situation. I'm just highlighting that these are some of the disadvantages that you face. Therefore, it is important to consider the situation. If you see the red flags, of course, get advice, consider very carefully, and go to the authorities first. Otherwise, you would indeed be at a disadvantage. You'll be at the mercy of the authorities, who have had received a narrative that's already been tailored to fit a certain perspective and with certain intentions in mind.